All right. Can you share with me what your name is and your business?
Of course. My name's Dave Regula, and I work with my wife, Lauren, who is the better half in the business and in the life. She's an Olympian. She's the face of our business called Strong Mom, and we work one-on-one with career-driven moms, as Lauren would say, to get their together.
How was your situation before um before hiring my team?
So the business situation wasn't great. We had kind of come, everyone knows this, right? In this space, ups and downs, great months. Unfortunately, we all measure in months too often and not quarters and years, but we had some really hard months. Um, and we're kind of trailing off. And I think the bigger part, and maybe other founders can relate to this, is me personally. Like I was like a tortured soul. Like I felt like we had built our business, Lauren and I, for two or 3 years, almost 3 years, and we were kind of had big goals. Our revenue, we were kind of at the 3 to 4 million a year revenue spot. So we kind of worked through some things, put a good team in place, and we had these bad months, and we were just trending in the worst way. And it made me feel personally like it was all gonna go away, right? It felt like we didn't have any answers for this problem. And to be honest, uh, I think a lot of people can relate to this too. Like everyone comes from their own place, right? Like our fulfillment product, my wife, that's her thing. I was very much from the sales and kind of internal business side, not necessarily the media buying side. And so I didn't have familiarity with that. And so it was like a math problem. It's like if you've taken calculus, when you get that problem, you stare at it and it makes you sick to your stomach. You know that you can't solve it and the clock's ticking. That's what it felt like with the business. Like I didn't know where to turn, to be honest. I can't, looking back, the business wasn't in as bad a place as I thought it was. But me personally, I was in a worse place than I could have imagined. And it affected all parts of my life, like sleepless, like waking up in the middle of the night, like sweating kind of thing, like thinking about this. And this was a business that we built from nothing to almost 4 million bucks the year before. Like, how could that be? That's how I felt.
Hmm.
It's a nice short answer for you.
No, it's a good answer. I definitely think you're better at business than you're a very humble person, man. What were your thoughts like going through this process with us?
It just was eye-opening. We've always had agencies, they don't want to tell you what they're doing. When it's not working, it's your fault kind of thing. And I think you basically saying like, okay, here's the playbook, is important. That's one piece, right? And the second piece is like, I will say just on a personal level, the storm was brewing inside me, like the discomfort. And I think you did a good job on a personal level of like, and anybody that works with you is going to see like you're definitely a calming presence, which I think is the most important thing in a world of marketers that are flashy object. Here's my car in your face. Like the Zen approach, I've always appreciated, which is kind of where you come from. Thoughtful, introspective, like the process we use, designing our ideal hire, like those things. No one else does that stuff. We've actually taken some of those processes and put them in place in other places in the company, which I think is cool. So does that make sense? Kind of
Yeah,
good.
that's awesome, man. I appreciate that about the uh the Zen approach because that's what I didn't used to always be like that, but that's what I
No,
try to do. So that's great to hear.
it's a maturity level, I think, because we've dealt with a lot of different people, and I'm sure other people in my spot have, but like it's one of the things about online business and people that are doing coaching specifically, it's like the space is just filled with immaturity and insecurity. And to find, like, if whenever you can find somebody that's the opposite of both of those, I think you need to dig in and keep that relationship going, right? Like, just on a human level, that's who I need to surround myself with anyways. And so to like find that with you in the process, like it was very simple for me to make that decision once I got up to the start line.
Did you have any fears or doubts about going through the process?
Yes, I had big fears. Like every scenario plays out because it's a true unknown, right? Yeah, I just think like it's a little bit like I think I was operating from a scarcity mindset, and I think I'm not alone from talking to other people. Um, and the reality is like when you think about like the lever you're pulling with your media buying, like what are you doing by not solving that problem, right? Opening that bottleneck. Like that's the lifeblood of your business. Like looking back, I together with the person that we worked with at the time, like I think we both knew that our relationship had kind of reached our professional relationship had reached its spot. Like we still were friends and have a great relationship and have gone on to do bigger things. If I need something, he's pointing me in the right direction, has my best interest still. Like there aren't many people like that in the space. And again, like I think you're one of the people, right? Like if
I
I
appreciate
in
that.
2 years, if I'm off in wherever I am, like I feel like I could reach out and not as a client, you would say, hey man, I think this is something to think about. And that's invaluable in this whole thing. Like no one does that.
Agree. Totally agree. And I appreciate that. What kind of results did you get like right out of the gate
It turned
versus where you were before?
Yeah, it turned around and stabilized pretty quickly. Like I think 2 out of the last 3 months have been record months for us. One was about a 30% record in terms of new sales, and total revenue cash in the business. Um, yeah, it was wild. Like it whipped back, and to be honest, like it kind of verified the bottleneck for us, right? Like where we thought the bottleneck was. Um, yeah, we have our hope back. That's kind of like the big thing, right?
Do you mind sharing what you were able to accomplish last month?
No, so we did about 620, 619 in new sales. I think we were right about 790 in total sales. So that was we have a big resign and internal sales process to add to that. And then our cash was up towards 500K, which is that was good. That was a record for us. I can't complain about any of that. Yeah, super cool.
How does that feel?
It feels fucking good, man. It feels really good. Um, it feels good when you see something that you believed in for so long, like do the thing that you think it could do, right? It's like your business is your baby, right? You have kids, so when your kid comes home with straight A's and you're like, I knew you could do that. You've been saying it this whole time, like then they finally do it, or they finally do something around the house like that you believed in, like feels good. Like it also makes you realize you're not crazy. That's always that's always a bonus. I, I feel like I wasn't crazy. Like we can do this. And the other thing is it's belief in the future, right? Like we can do that, then what's the next level, right? We love what we're doing and believe in it. So like we're going further.
What would you say that you're able to do in the business, lifestyle wise, that you weren't able to do before because of some of the issues that were going on?
Well, when we were kind of without media buyer, like I couldn't do anything. Like for me, that's the worry and stress of those moments. Like when we were interviewing agencies but didn't have anything solidified, like that was impossible. I'm the kind of person who wears like if it's not going well, like I'm I wasn't I wasn't doing well. Like it was very hard for me to operate in the rest of my life and be present. I guess. And for somebody that has 3 kids and needs to be at sports and supporting things, like, not cool.
Yeah, I mean, you've been every time I'm like, what is this dude? What is this dude doing? Because you've been every time that we've talked the last like month or two, you're like, oh, hold on, man, I'm going to this airport, or I'm
Nonstop.
my car is driving and I'm texting or
Yeah.
whatever.
We had, I think we had 10 or 11 overnight travel tournaments for between my 3 kids from January until, the summer. So yeah, it's crazy. It was crazy.
And then what kind of positive impact do you think that this has had on other people around you? Like being able to solve that issue, have that person in place, hit the record months.
Well, I feel like it's like everyone needs to ask themselves, like, what if they're their best self, if you are your highest version of who you are, like, where does the ripple go? Like, that's basically what happens. Like, if the business is like crushing and I'm not stressed and worried about it, it frees me to be who I can be in other places. I mean, you can take that anywhere. Like, what has it done? Like, all the employees are obviously doing better, right? Because they're hitting KPIs, and the people, like, the atmosphere in the business is wonderful. We're bringing clients and our sales team's excited. Like, that's a given. But like, on a personal level, if you're like the owner of the company or the founder or whatever, like, your marriage is better, your kids are better, like, everything you do is better, right? Like, it's the biggest. If you, yeah, like, you look at your life, like, what's your number one stress? Like, this was my number one stress. Like, yeah, I'm way cooler when I'm not dealing with this. Like, everybody, everybody would know that. I'm like, I don't have as much to complain about.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, and you're a great dad, man. You're always I've done the travel stuff before. It's incredibly hard. So I don't know how you do it for sure. So what would you tell someone who's watching this right now, unsure about working with me and my team?
I think there are, I mean, it's so if you're on the fence with this and you're stuck in decision mode, essentially, which is safe, right? It's easier to sit there than it is to take what you think is a risk. Like, there are two ways to look at it. Like, to me, the risk is that you stay where you're at. Like, if you don't make a decision and get off the fence, like, you're in trouble to begin with. Like, the potential upside on a professional and a personal level is, the risk of not going for that is crazy to me. Like, and that's what essentially put me down the road, right? I looked 5 years into the future. What does my best life look like? What do I want? Like, do I want to be dealing with people who don't care about my company? Do I want to be stressed and tied up in Facebook ads manager, even considering that? No, like, you've probably thought about that. If you're watching, you're like, oh, of course. But you've only done it in sales, operations, fulfillment. You've never considered this piece. Like, this is the needle mover too. So, like, what do you want? Right?
Great advice, man.